Hey, what's going on, everybody? How you doing? I wanted to say a welcome aboard to all subscribers. First time I do an occasional Mosher's mailbag, and I basically answer any of your Eagles questions or NFL questions that you send to me through Twitter. I'm sorry, not through Twitter. You can me on Twitter at Jeff Mosher NFL and ask me a question there, and I can also answer it on this mailbag. But it works in supply and demand. You guys send me questions to answer, and I'll do more mailbags. So I will try to continue to send out a reminder every Monday through Patreon that I'm doing questions that you have. So I hope everybody had. First, let me just remind you, you can catch the Hide the Birds podcast. Get it on iTunes, Apple, Stitcher, any of the podcast platforms that you listen to podcasts through. It's been a great podcast, and Adam and I have been doing for months now. We usually do it every Monday. It comes out Tuesday. So far during the off, what's going on with the Eagles? The Eagles are starting rookie camp. Today is Friday. It started today. Doug Peterson had a press conference today. He talked about first-round pick Andre Dillard, who's going to start off his career practicing at left. The idea is to cross-train him now. He's obviously not the left tackle of the future. He's going to practice at left tackle, practice at right tackle a little bit in case there's ever an injury to Lane Johnson. And interestingly, Doug also said he feels that maybe he can practice him at guard a little bit. So perhaps Jordan Mailata's career down the road, they feel as far as your inside assignments, your run fits, everything like that. If he can transition, then he could potentially be a good right guard. So we'll see with Jordan Mailata. All hope isn't lost for him. The sensation of last year's preseason progress. He's not going to give a lot of information right now on Carson Wentz. Nobody is. So we'll just have to see how that goes. But apparently the progress has been good. Let me just get to your questions now before I hit on some other things. We'll start with Frank G, one of my very loyal question askers for this mailbag. And he asked right now if I think the Eagles have a top 10 defense to not be coming back, and has said that not come back because they told him his role isn't what it's going to be anymore. Last year, he played 60% of the snaps. A lot of that was due to injuries that you saw on the line. The year before they won the Super Bowl, I think he played closer to 50% of the snaps. He's been their pass rusher in nickel, not against taking an edge rusher like Brandon Graham and slid him inside and slid inside and Fletcher Cox on the field when who is a defensive tackle that will not come off the field on pass rush downs. He's a pass rushing tackle. He's better than that at stopping the run. So when you have that, you have your Fletcher Cox, you have Malik Jackson, and then you have your two edge rushers and Derek Barnett and Brandon Graham. There's still certainly a role in rotations for Chris Long. 50 to 60% is now in question, and Chris isn't sure that he wants to play if it's not going to be at least 50 to 60% of the defense. And the Eagles have told him his role is not there anymore. So the question is, have the Eagles done enough to fortify the defensive line, the linebacker group, and the secondary to be a top 10 defense? I still think they're very strong on the D-line when you can come with Fletcher Cox, Malik Jackson, Brandon Graham, Derek Barnett as your starting four is very good. You look in, we had a lot of pressures, a lot of hurries. I think you were second on the team, or maybe even just play on rundowns and try to revert back to 2017 form. They got two kids now in Josh Sweat, who missed half of his rookie year last year when he got hurt. I don't know what you can depend on with him. And obviously Sharif Miller, they drafted him coming off the bench, and with Tim Jernigan was the trade that from the Colts during the draft. I don't think there is net off the bench. You were bringing Bo Allen off the bench as a run. Those three guys coming off the bench making a huge impact. Tim Jernigan gives you 6 if Tim Jernigan really is back to what he was. But that 7th spot, be it whether it's Sharif Miller or Josh Sweat, it's kind of a big question mark. And even with Curry and Tim Jernigan, I'm not sure if he's going to be a nickel pass rusher, if he's starting again on rundowns, and they want. I just think that they lack a little bit as far as depth is concerned compared to last 2 years. Great pass rushes the last 2 years. So I don't know if they've taken a step back or if we're at the same. It's hard for me to think they're better, but it is one of my question marks. Linebacker, clearly area without Jordan Hicks, who when healthy is a good player, although he struggled last year. I thought Nigel Bradham didn't play great last year. So linebacker is an area of concern that they've been able to compensate with more play by more sub packages, more defensive backs on the field, whether it's safety and corner. I don't know how the corner picture is going to shake out. Ronald Darby's going to start at one spot, and then you're going to have what, Sidney Jones battling Jalen Mills for another. Does that mean Avonte Maddox is now out of the outside corner question, and is going to be auctioning himself or auditioning himself at slot corner, which is probably where he's best? We'll see. At safety, Malcolm and Rodney are great. That's a facet tandem, but one guy's a little bit older, the other guy's coming off an injury. They bring in Andrew Sendejo. He's not as well-rounded as from a coverage. The potential to be a top 10 defense. I certainly do. Really good players overall. Malcolm Jenkins is a very good player. Fletcher Cox is an all-pro. Malik Jackson is a good defensive lineman they never really had great linebacker play. It's all about their good players on defense to be a top 10. A lot to prove. I'll say that. Can they be a top 10 defense, or how it did in 2017 in last year when it went from 2 points per game last year? That's a touchdown a game drop off, and that puts your pressure on the defense. If the offense gets back to being 28, 27 points a game, then your defense doesn't have to be as stout, or it gives your defense more rest and it enables your defense to have some leads, dictate how well the defense is. And Andrew Sendejo to save a comp pick, and would that upset future free agents from coming here? So what Frank is asking is, when they signed Andrew Sendejo, his signing, he's a qualifying free agent. Was lost Nick, and they also lost of qualifying guys, but they signed 2 guys, Elfort and Andrew Sendejo. So 4 minus 2 is 2. So it's a net loss of 2. So right now they're supposed to get probably 2 compensatory picks if lost 4. So that would give them a chance to get an extra compensatory pick, probably a lower one, 5th, 6th, 7th round, something of that nature, because now you're talking about the loss of Jordan Hicks, their 3rd highest rated free agent behind Golden Tate and Foles. So that might even get them, I would say a 5th round pick, maybe, because of the contract that Jordan Hicks signed. So would they cut him to get? I would say it's possible they could cut him. Alex can help them at safety. That Blake Countess, who they just acquired, is going to be their 4th safety, and that Countess and Maddox can be safeties number 3 or 4. Or Trey Sullivan really improves. He played a lot at the end last year. They signed they acquired another safety off waivers named Godwin, and I have trouble with the last name. I think it's Ikabui, something of that nature. So they have a lot of safeties in camp. If, say, Andrew Sendejo has a really bad camp, could they possibly cut him to recoup the draft pick? Yeah, I say it's possible. And he played probably one of the most important roles on the defense that year. So I think they're going to give Andrew Sendejo the benefit of the doubt. He is a good safety. He has been a starter for a long time, and now he's reserved for a specified role, less snap. Should be just outplay him. Would future free agents be discouraged from signing with the Eagles because of that? I would say no. I think anytime you sign a 1-year deal, which is mostly veteran guys like Chris Long, like Garrett Blunt, like Andrew Sendejo, in your 30s, anytime you sign a 1-year deal, you know that you're competing for your job. You know that every team is going to look for someone younger to replace you anyway. So I don't see that being a case. You're not going to cut Malik Jackson. Malik Jackson's not going to be afraid to sign here because of being afraid to be cut, because he signed a long deal with a $9 million signing bonus, and they're not going to cut him and say, hey, now, well, that's a bad example, because he already cut by the Jags, so he's really not part of the formula. But I'll apply that to any other free agent that they could pretend. They're not going to not sign a major free agent. They're not going to sign a major free agent and then cut him just to get out of the comp pick formula and then make other free agents mad. But you can see that their line of out is to try to get guys like Malik Jackson, guys who aren't qualifying free agents because they were cut already before the start of free agency, or getting to cut him anyway. That's the way the Eagles have been working for the last few years. So I hope I answered that question. And real quick, just to give you an update on the comp pick for Foles and a fourth rounder for Golden Tate. I think that just two. If LJ Fort or Sendejo were to get cut, and they were to get another one. So as that stands, they have the extra third, the extra fourth, and they have an extra fifth from the Michael Bennett trade, 3, 4, 5. So that's 3 extra picks on top of their first round, second round, normal third round, normal fourth round, normal Jordan Howard, but they have a 7th round pick. So that gives them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 overall picks right now. And there's still potential of them making a trade out of camp to acquire maybe a pick, but 9 is pretty good. Anytime you can go into a draft with 7 or more picks, that's excellent. Gives you flexibility to maneuver. Obviously, having 2 third-round picks is very key. 2 fourth-round picks. But last question came from Yovarni Y. And he kind of switches gears a little bit and asks, he says, I know we're all Eagles fans here, but the question he has is about the well, I go back to last year. I was very critical of them taking a running back, Saquon Barkley, who I love. Organizational decisions and your approach, I thought it was a little, I don't want to say insane, but I thought it was a bad decision to take a running back over any of the quarterbacks that were available. Baker was off the board, but you had great, and he can still win, and we'll take Darnold play well last year for the Jets to now going as Sam Darnold or Josh Rosen last year. And in fact, people don't even think, many scouts didn't even see him as a top 6 pick this year, or one of the best quarterbacks. Some didn't even believe he was better than Drew Lock out of Missouri, Dwayne Haskins, who they passed on out of Ohio State. So I continue to be critical of the Giants process. I don't understand the idea of passing on a quarterback at guys in that class or the class before. To me, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But the one thing is, if he's right, and if Daniel Jones turns out to be, the next great quarterback, then we all have egg drafting free agency. As for Eagles fans, that would be pretty good news. They'll be happy to face Daniel Jones next year if he winds up starting. All right. I hope everybody has a great weekend. Happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there, and to all the sons and dads. Make sure you treat another Mosher's Mailbag sometime soon in the foreseeable future. Take